You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of, What If Naruto Makes Female Ninja Army? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Mad Hat 886 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. A tall middle-aged woman with long green hair is standing on an outside stage in front of a crowd of women in an open-air arena. The white button shirt she wore strained to keep her massive burst from popping free. The block miniskirt she wore barely kept her underwear from being seen. There are a dozen women on the stage with her are all wearing the same uniform as she's wearing and who are also straining the tops of their shirts, as the shirts are all tight around the melons area. And before them are hundreds of young women who are all dressed which all short mini dresses like the skirts the women in white are wearing. We the Delmo Kunoichis of the Delmo clan stand before here today for this important announcement, the green-haired woman shouted for all to hear. Finally, after 18 long years of searching, we have finally located the lost heir of the Delmo clan. A mighty cheer rang out from the crowd of women before her as they have been searching for the wandering daughter of the Delmo clan, ever since she ran off all those years ago. For hundreds of years the Delmo clan in the land of metal, a country rich in metals beyond the land of earth, has ruled over the country. The land is ruled by one powerful family whose power is fueled by the money, the great mines throughout the country that they solely owned. It had began as a hidden village like the ones in the eastern countries, but that had changed when the daughter of the leader of the Delmo clan, who was also the leader of the ninja village, and the Sun royal family had fallen in love with each other. Since then the castle of the royal family and the village hidden in metal had combined to form the only ninja village that's in plain sight, as the city around the castle has become their home. The inner walls of the castle are staffed and protected by the descendants of the ninja village, which are all shapely women. The reason of this is because the ninjas of the village hidden in metal had always been kunoichis, as a powerful blood limit has been passed down to all of the ninja clans. The blood limit lets them HRNSS chirka from their surroundings, giving them unlimited source of energy. But the blood limit also had a price, as all those who carried the blood limit can only have female children, who are known for their beauty and ample figures thanks to the blood limit, which matures their bodies in a big way. Because of that, the Delmo Kunoichis, as they came to be known, have to marry outside the clan to have children, but because they didn't want to have their blood limit fall into another village, all newborn females have a seal placed on them at BRTH that makes it impossible for them to ever become PRGNT without having the seal unsealed by one of the elders of the clan. That only happens when they found a husband. And to make sure that the girls didn't just go and marry to any guy, the man would have to beat the kunoichi in a fight in front of her family members to make sure that there's no cheating involved by the man. But it isn't uncommon for the kunoichi to lose the match if she really likes the man who's fighting her, as long as the mother of the kunoichi or grandmother can see the man is truly in love with their daughter/granddaughter. And the fact of having grandchildren running underfoot helps in deciding if they should tell the wife to lose the fight. The young women of the Delmo clan have been forced to look further and further from the central city to find a husband, as after years of the city's young men marrying young kunoichis, there are very few women who don't have the blood limit flowing in them, causing very few male births in the city. The clan is ranked differently to other ninjas as they work under the royal family, who by this time are all women, but for the husbands who married into the family, as the country has been ever since the union of the leader's daughter and the prince, has been a queendom. The kunoichis all wear color-coded uniforms to tell what area or rank they are at. The age of the kunoichis are also higher, as the youngest that a kunoichi can be when they can go on to be to S-ranked missions is 16. The elders reasoning that older, stronger girls were more suitable to handle the missions, which are more than just picking weeds from a garden or looking after a store when the owner is sick, or any mission that are outside the city's walls. And that there are so many women in the city who are from the Delmo clan, the elders had to raise the age level so there wouldn't be too many ninjas running around. The Black Delmos, the lowest ranking of the kunoichis, in charge of carrying out simple missions, mass attacking using hand-to-hand combat and the administration of the castle and surrounding city the lowest jobs. The purple delmos, they are trained in using churka to increase their speed, making them invisible to the naked eye. They serve as massagers between the towns of the country. The yellow delmos, they serve as the city guards protecting the people. They are trained with body weights, making them very powerful in combat. The pink delmos, they are responsible for maintaining the equipments for missions. And they're the healers. The green delmos, they specialize in using long-range throwing weapons and sneaking onto targets. The blue delmos, the middle-ranking kunoichis. They carry weapons and perform security duties such as defending the city and castle against intruders. The orange delmos, trained to be weapon experts who can hold all of their weapons on them using the hidden weapons jutsu, which uses a lot of churka to be used. The red delmos, they're the castle guard who are trained like the yellows in making their bodies strong. But they wear body armor, making them the only ninjas who wear armor. The silver delmos, the hunter ninjas to recapture any runaway ninjas. And information gatherers. The gold delmos, the elites who specialize in S-ranked missions and black ops. The white delmos, the commanders and royal family personal bodyguards. They are responsible for the smooth operations of the kunoichi's forces and missions. Here is the queen tell us personally of what she has learned about her lost daughter, the green-haired woman shouted as she steps back to like an old silver-hair woman wearing a kimono to step up to speak. As you know, my adventure's daughter Kiko ran away 18 years ago to live out her dream of becoming a wandering ninja known for her skill and power. I learned yesterday that she made it as far as the land of fire in the Far East. There she met a powerful ninja who was the Hokage of the village hidden in the leaf. She got into a fight with him, losing and ending up marrying him. There she stayed until her death when the nine-tailed fox attacked the village 12 years ago. My daughter has been dead for years now, the queen told her loyal ninjas to their horror, as this would mean the end of the Delmo royal family, which would mean a civil war over the throne, but before she died she gave BRTH to my grandchild. The first male to ever be born in our ninja clan. This caused a wave of shock to all those present, as never in their history has a male been born by a woman carrying the blood limit in her body. My son-in-law gave his life in sealing the nine-tailed fox into my grandson to save his village, wanting them to look at his son as a hero. But instead they only saw him as the demon fox, making his life a living hell, the old queen said, which all the ninjas could feel a burning fury in her voice. I want every free gold Delmo here to head for the Hidden Leaf Village. You all will receive a picture of what he looks like at the mission briefing. Find him and bring my grandson unharmed back here. My queen, may I ask, what is his name? A redhead with short hair in a gold Delmo uniform asked. The queen let out a deep sigh as she's still recovering from learning her daughter's death and the mistreatment of her only grandson. His name is Naruto, and he is the royal heir of the Delmo family. It was in the mid-afternoon, the sun was high over the sky, shining down upon the village of the Hidden Leaf. The sounds of joyful laughter could be heard floating through the air. At the Ninja Academy, the next year's class of graduates were situated in the outside yard. The children's parents celebrating the newly appointed ninjas' accomplishments. It was a joyous occasion all around, mostly anyways. Sitting on a small wooden swing off to the side of the courtyard sat a short blonde boy. His body drifting back and forth as he looked longingly at the display going on before him. A mother kissing her daughter on the cheek, a father ruffling his son's hair as he smiled brightly at the boy. Another father tossing his son proudly into the air and catching him. They all looked so happy and proud of their children. The young boy in the swing, Naruto, could barely keep his eyes open. Watching all of them together, so happy of being with their family, it made that longing feeling feel so much deeper. When he opened his eyes again, Naruto took notice of a strange-looking woman wandering around the courtyard. She was wearing a plain gold-colored kimono and her hair was tied back in a braided ponytail which flowed down her backside, her hair in the front draped down in front of her eyes. She had high cheekbones, big, brown eyes, and a rather aquiline nose. She looked to be around in her 30s. Though that wasn't strange in itself, it was the pale green hair and dark skin that made her noticeable in a crowd. And also the fact that her figure was fabulous, slim waist, rounded peach, full bosom, her melons very large, round, somewhat pendulous shape. Even with the kimono it was easy to see how shapely she is, causing many of the wives to smack their husbands from staring at her. She appeared to be looking through the crowd of children and parents. Most likely looking for her own somewhere. With a sigh, Naruto turned his gaze to his feet, barely able to touch the ground from his spot on the swing due to his short stature. "Excuse me," blinking as no one usually talks to him, Naruto looked up to see who was addressing him. To his surprise it was the green-haired woman. She was bent down at the waist, with her hands on her knees looking at him at eye level. Her head crooking to the side as she appeared to be examining him as if making sure he was the real one. "Why yeah?" Naruto asked wearily. Any and all experience with adults had taught him to be careful. They were always yelling at him or throwing stuff at him or chasing him away with brooms. The woman just continued to stare at him. Her green eyes squinting shut in a kadish look. After another moment, the woman smiled, gave a sharp nod, and stood up straight again. "Can I ask you a question?" The woman asked, walking around so that she was beside the blonde boy, looking out at the group of people in front of the school. "Yeah, what?" Naruto looked puzzled, as he stared up at the strange woman. Her gaze was directed at the crowd. Did she want him to find her child in the crowd or something? "Why aren't you celebrating with the other children over there?" she asked. Naruto could feel his throat tightening as he turned to look at his feet again. I didn't pass," he mumbled. The redhead looked surprised as she looked at him. "You didn't pass?" She indeed did looked quite surprised. Why? Naruto really didn't want to get into this, especially with a complete stranger. But despite that, the fact that someone was actually paying attention to him completely overrode his embarrassment. "I couldn't perform the final exam jutsu," the boy admitted. I failed." Blinking, the woman stared at him, wanting him to go on. "I couldn't do a simple bushin," Naruto explained. "Oh, I see," she replied. A moment of silence. What was she going to do? Laugh at him like all the other villagers? There was a short rustling behind him and then a surprised Naruto found himself sailing forward in the swing. When he came back, he looked up to see the woman holding on to the ropes. "This is a very nice swing," she commented. "I bet it's a lot of fun." "Well yeah," Naruto replied, a smile creeping onto his face. "It's my favorite." "I bet it's a lot of fun having someone to push you," she added, giving the swing another push, sending Naruto forward again. "Yeah," the boy's smile was growing wider now. Back and forth he went as she continued to push him, Naruto's earlier mood seemingly forgotten. "So what are you going to do now?" she asked suddenly. Bring the young boy out of his brief happy trance. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, turning his head to look up at the red head. "Now that you failed, are you going to try again?" she asked, her tone sounding merely thoughtful. Well of course." Naruto replied, a familiar fire returning to the blonde. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Do you think I'm going to let this stop me?" The woman smiled. "I'm glad to hear it," she replied, happy to see the same spirit in his heart as the woman she had grew up with. "Why you are?" This was a surprise. In all of his life, Naruto had never met anybody who had ever said anything encouraging like that to him. Well, except maybe for his academy teacher Iruka, but Iruka was also always yelling at him too. Of course. Who wouldn't want such a nice boy to succeed? The woman smiled brightly. As she leaned forward, a number of her greed locks fell in front of her and into Naruto's face. Brushing the green strands of hair out his face, Naruto stared up in awe at the strange woman. "Who are you anyways?" he finally asked. The woman looked somewhat taken aback and released her hold on the swing. "My name is Setsuna Omido," she replied, giving him a warm smile. "Your name is Setsuna?" Naruto asked, jumping out of the swing to look at her. Well, thanks Setsuna. I'm definitely going to pass. One way or another. Just wait and see. That's very good. Setsuna smiles at the young boy. Well, I have to go. Make sure to look for me, Setsuna. Next time you see me, I'm gonna to be a full-fledged ninja of the leaf. Naruto proclaimed, before dashing off, waving the whole time until he was out of sight. Setsuna wore a bitter smile as she watched him go. It was, as she realized, much harder to tell him who he is than she had realized. But why? Wouldn't it have been good if she had told him who his mother was and father? That he's the only heir of a powerful ninja clan and the prince of the land of metal in the far west, that he didn't have to put himself through all of this hard work to become a leaf ninja. Wouldn't he have been happy? Wouldn't he? But when she had stared into his eyes, she could see the sparks shining in them which were in his mother's eyes when she was around his age. She and Kiko were growing up together. Both she and Kiko had gone through the ninja school together. Her duty was to become the personal bodyguard of Kiko, as she was brought up to be exactly like the princess and train in using the body image jutsu that takes the body image of the person the user targets. She was to be Kiko's body double when she became queen. But the princess had other ideas. She had the dream of being a wandering ninja, going from one place to another without a care for the world. The life as a princess wasn't to her liking, as she wanted adventure before she became queen. That was what she had written in her letter to her mother before she ran away. Setsuna hopes that her friend found what she was looking for in the arms of the fourth Hokage of the Leaf. Unlike the rest of the clan, those born in the royal family don't have the anti-child seal place on them. While Setsuna was deep within her own thoughts, she hadn't noticed two women from the main crowd of people walk over to her. Blinking in surprise, the green-haired woman turned to look at the two. "You must be new here," the first woman stated. Yes, I am," Setsuna replied carefully. She hadn't realized she stood out that much. But her clothes are the norm in the land of metal, but here she guessed was very unusually. "It's understandable. We saw you talking to it, and thought you should be careful," the second woman explained. "Excuse me?" Setsuna looked puzzled. "We're really not supposed to talk about it," the first continued, looking around carefully to make sure no one was listening, "but be careful. That thing is a monster. If you're not careful you might get killed." The sheer intensity of the glare that the two women received was so powerful that they both jumped back in surprise. And to their horror their clothes fell apart as if they were cut with a blade, leaving them peach naked in the middle of the street. Everyone stared at her as none of them saw her move from the spot she was standing at. Setsuna left without another word. In one of the inns of the village, Setsuna returned to the room she and her party had rented under the ruse of being travelers. It was already nightfall when she made it back to the inn. She had chosen 5 gold delmos for this mission, as she didn't want to draw unwanted attention to themselves. The rest of the gold delmos are waiting orders from them outside of the village, keeping out of sight. Which was easy, as they are all A to S rank kunoichis, and because of their bloodline they can maintain jutsus which hides them in plain sight. Rushuna Tendo, age 16 years old, the youngest of the group. Tall, with a slim, athletic figure. Her melons are large, at least for her age, but not as large as those of any of the other girls of the gold delmos. Her face was pretty, with a sweet, innocent look to it, with blue eyes and a heart-shaped mouth. Her hair was long, blonde, and wavy. She uses a jutsu that allows her to control fire, making it hotter and take shapes. She is armed with gloves with flint-covered fingertips. Once she snaps her fingers she can make the small spark into a roaring inferno. She is also skilled in using pressure points, locking her opponent bodies with the slightest touch. Mikan Kurinai, tall, thin, her skin very dark, but clear, her floor-length hair wavy, dark with a slight reddish cast. Her large well-formed BRST, and plump projecting peach seem to have been bolted on to her thin frame. She possesses a skill passed down through her family which took 300 years to perfect, the Eisen-style armor cloth skill. It allows the user to transform any cloth into a living weapon or armor. She personally uses adamantium cloth. She also has explosive gauntlets which the blasts are focused in the front of the gauntlets when she forms her hands into a fist, leaving her hands unharmed. Then there's her sister Tuka Kurenai, her wavy, auburn hair reaching to the middle of her back. Like Carrie, her eyes were green, flashing with passion. Her fine skin was dusted with freckles, across her nose and cheekbones and the top of her bosom. Her figure seemed more voluptuous than her sister, with extremely large melons and a slim waist curving out to full, firm peach. Her weapon is sound waves produced from her gauntlets and from an odd accordion/piano object which operates by blowing air through the nose into it. Her vibrations can affect equilibrium as well as breaking down the cells of objects. Maya Yujina, a redhead who keeps her hair short, she is sleek, muscled, powerful and stood over 8 feet. Her legs were of special interest, they were the firm and taut legs of a fitness model or female track star. And like she likes to rub it in, she has the biggest burst line as she wears a custom-made BR to hold her H-cup size melons. She uses a fighting move that's been pasted down in her family for generations ever since one of her great-grandmothers had married the monk who learned to use it. Normally when a person punches an object, resistance is made caused by the object. To make sure that this leftover power isn't wasted, the person will hit with the knuckles, then a second hit with the rest of the fist is made within 1/64th of a second, causing the object to shatter. And then there is the last member of the party, Jiraiya Hinata. She was a appealing doll, less than 5 feet tall, with large melons, a slim waist, gorgeous peach, all in proportion to her tiny size. Her almond-shaped eyes were big, and so dark as to be almost black. Her doll-like face was framed by straight hair, black, but with a reddish cast, parted in the middle, reaching to the middle of her round peach. She uses her small and light frame to her advantage, using a long cape that can take the form of large wings. She uses a wind jutsu to lift her into the air. With this she can glide through the air effortlessly and attack from high above. Have you found the prince? Maya asks as she flips through the channels on the TV in their room. Yes, I have, Setsuna replied as she sat down on one of the chairs in the room. When will we make our move? Rushuna asks as she wants to get out of here before they're discovered. It's not that simple, Sasuna said, he has his heart set on becoming a leaf ninja. He won't willing go with us. You heard the queen, she wants him to be brought back with us, Mikan said, she wants him taken away from here, willingly or otherwise. I agree with my sister for once, Tuka said, backing up her sister, which she rarely ever does. She ordered us to do this by any means. As long as he is unharmed, that is, Jiraiya reminded them. Rushuna can use a sleeping pressure point on him and we can carry him out of here before the ninjas here can stop us. And what makes you think that he won't run away like his mother when he sees a chance to? Setsuna said to the younger Kunoichis in the room. I see the same look in his eyes as his mother. If we force him, he will not accept being held against his will. He has to freely come with us, or the same thing that happened 18 years ago with his mother will happen again. And we won't have another chance of doing this again. I have already confirmed that the adults of the villages only see the prince as a demon. We have to convince him to accept the fact that he will never be accepted by this village, but for that to happen we will have to do things slowly to gain his trust. I have already taken the first step when I met him in front of the school, after he failed the final. Then all we have to do is make sure that we be there for him when he falls to catch him, Mikan said to all present, who all nodded in response. This is the most important mission they have ever been given, one that they cannot fail. I'm going to keep an eye on him. Jiraiya, come with me in case I need the rest of you, Setsuna said as she got up and headed for the door. All right, Jiraiya said as she followed the leader of the group out the door. Later that night, Setsuna was having flashbacks as she raced through the woods. She still couldn't believe that Naruto is acting just like his mother, as she had stolen a forbidden scroll containing powerful jutsus when she was told she couldn't learn them. Setsuna had to find him before one of those enraged leaf ninjas found and killed him. That's why she was out here in this forest, searching desperately with no clue as to the young prince's whereabouts. When the Hokage had first gathered the search team, she and Jiraiya had remained in the shadows to watch, using a powerful jutsu to hide them from the ninjas in the room. When they had saw the CC jutsu Naruto used to knock the Hokage out, they had almost blown their cover as they had to hold in their laughter when they saw the face the old man made. She had felt so enraged and helpless as she saw the reactions of the group of ninjas. Rage for the hated words they dared to speak about her friend's son, the only prince of her land, and helplessness because there was nothing she could do about it. If she attacks them, they would learn the truth about Naruto's mother and he would become a powerful political tool to them. His grandmother would pay a heavy price to have her grandson brought back to her. But one of those ninjas had caught her attentions. Iruka, wasn't it? He was Naruto's teacher if she had read the report on Naruto's life here correctly. The look in his eyes, he must have known where Naruto was. And so she had followed him, out into the darkness of the forest. She had already sent Jiraiya to bring the others to the forest as she would leave a trail for them to follow her. Unfortunately, Setsuna had to make sure she didn't run too fast as she would be detected by the Leaf Ninja. She had lost sight of Iruka a couple of times as she needed to keep back from using any of her real speed, and wait for other Leaf Ninjas to pass by as they look for Naruto. She just hopes that no one else would detect the scent trail she's leaving for the others to follow. So now she was running through the great forest of Konoha without any idea as to where to go. Only on the brief chance that she would find the prince before any of the other ninjas find them. But it turns out for once, fate was on her side. As the Delmo Kunoichi ran through the forest, a sudden crashing sound caught her attention. Skidding to a halt, Setsuna craned her head upward just in time to see Naruto with what must be the forbidden scroll in his arms slam full force into his teacher, Iruka. Naruto! Setsuna gasped in shock. What was he doing? Naruto, Iruka muttered, getting back to his feet. How did you know wasn't Iruka? With a poof of smoke, Iruka was gone, replaced with an unfamiliar white-haired ninja. There is a sinister look in his eyes. Simple. Naruto smirked, leaning heavily against a tree. Because, I am. With a second poof of smoke, Naruto was revealed to be the real Iruka. In all of her worry, Setsuna found a moment to curse herself. Was she really off the ball with her worrying about Naruto that she couldn't even see through a simple jutsu illusion? Being careful not to alert the two to her presence, Setsuna carefully crept her way to hide behind one of the nearby trees. She kept her eyes fixed upon the two ninjas, making sure that neither one would spot her. She only looked away when she bumped into something as she crept behind a tree. Startled, she looked down to see none other than Naruto. A startled and utterly puzzled look on his face as he looked at her. In his tightly gripped hands was the forbidden scroll. Setsuna Naruto was about to speak when Setsuna put a hand to her lips in a quieting motion. She then looked back around the tree at Iruka and the other ninja. He's so noble. Mizuki sneered at the wounded ninja, to save your parents' murderer. And for what? What happens if we let him live? Then maybe the scroll is safe from a scumbag like you. Iruka replied. Ugh, he had so many wounds from the earlier shuriken assault, his body felt like it could barely move. But Naruto was okay, that's all that mattered. Naruto and I are two of a kind, you know. Mizuki said, stepping closer. With that scroll, I can attain the same kind of limitless power. What? Iruka asked. Mizuki couldn't be talking about. The demon within hungers for that kind of power. Mizuki exclaimed. You were right to fear him. Naruto couldn't believe it. So it was true then. His teacher really held him in contempt. The tears were starting to come to his eyes now. The scroll in his hands gripped bone-crushingly tight to his body. So it was true then. What Mizuki had said earlier. You are the nine-tailed demon fox who attacked Konoha 12 years ago. Haven't you always wondered why everyone always hated you? It all seemed to make such painful sense. All those years, all the glares, the scornful words. The feeling of complete loneliness. Get lost, you little brat. Don't go near that boy. He's nothing but trouble. He'll never amount to anything. It hurt so much, all of it. Just give up, you loser. You can't do it, can you? Now he understood. Now that you failed. Are you going to try again? He blinked. Wait, those hadn't been words of scorn. This is a nice swing, I bet it's nice to have someone to push you. That woman looking up, Naruto saw Setsuna staring down at him. Her eyes, they weren't filled with hatred, no. She was looking at him with sadness. Her hands were on his shoulders, holding on to him softly. Of course. Who wouldn't want such a nice boy to succeed? No, she didn't hate him, unlike everyone else. You're right. Naruto could hear Iruka's voice. I do hate the fox. Setsuna's grip tightened on his shoulders. Iruka was about to say something else when a fireball flew out from the tree line, hitting Mizuki. He screamed as he was set on fire, rolling on the ground to put out the flames before falling on the ground still. Iruka turned to where the fireball came from, thinking that one of the leaf ninjas had saved him, but instead of seeing a leaf ninja, he saw 5 women. All of them are wearing gold-colored mini-dresses which just barely kept their underwear out of view. The top of their dresses have a hole cut right in the center of it, their bosoms are stretching the fabric of the dresses to the ripping point, and all of them are staring angrily at him. One of them is really tall, over 8 feet, and heavily muscled. Another is really short, under 5 feet, with a black cloak wrapped around her body. 2 of the women look like sisters, one armed with a long cloth and the other an accordion. The one in front has gloves on and has flames coming out of her hands. Who are you? Iruka asked the newcomers. He couldn't help but notice that all of them have figures that put to shame all of the women in the village. You're not going to live long enough to find out, the woman with the accordion said as she squeezed her instrument, causing a sound wave to hit him. Iruka screamed as his ear drums burst from the sound before he blacked out. But just before he blanked out, he saw Naruto coming out from behind a tree in the corner of his eyes, with a woman with the same busty build behind him. And he's still holding the scroll in his arms. It was past midnight as an armor-plated carriage raced through the streets of Konoha. The carriage is being pulled by a team of 6 horses, with Mikon in the driver's seat with Jiraiya sitting next to her. The horses pulling the carriage were not only fast, but they had tremendous stamina, galloping tirelessly through the deserted streets. The queen had spared no expenses in equipping the gold Delmos and retrieving her grandson from the hidden leaf village. Rashuna and Tuka are kneeling on top of the carriage to fight off any attackers. Setsuna and Maya are riding inside with their precise cargo. Once we're in sight of the gate, Maya, you'll have to make a hole for us, Mikon shouted to her teammate inside the moving carriage. You got it, the powerhouse of the team shouted from inside. Alright girls, it looks like we got some company coming up from both sides. Rashuna shouted as she spots leaf ninjas jumping on the rooftops of houses as they try catching up the fast-moving carriage. Well then, let's hit the music. Tuka shouted as she started playing with her accordion, sending blast of sound at the ninjas following them. The sound wave caused the ninjas following them to fall off the rooftops as they lost their balance or their ears started bleeding. And this should keep them busy. Rashuna said as she snaps her fingers, making sparks that expanded and taking form into birds made out of fire. Knowing that she has to keep the ninjas from following, sent her firebirds flying into houses, setting them on fire. The ninjas following them quickly stopped chasing. They quickly started to work on putting out the fires and helping the people out of the houses that are in flames. Look out! Jiraiya shouted, pointing in front of them, using her sharp eyes to see around them. Her family has eyes that are like the Hyuga family but doesn't change the way their eyes look, and had the ability to detect trace amounts of energy trails or auras by ninjas who are using jutsus. Standing on a roof at an intersection is a large group of ninjas taking aim at them. Got this one, Mikon said as she uses her family jutsu to make the long cloth wrapped around her arms and neck to make a shield over the horses and carriage as the ninjas started throwing shurikens at them. The shurikens bounced harmlessly off of the cloth shield as the carriage raced through the intersection, going down the main street of the village, heading straight for the main gate. We got runners right behind us. Rashuna shouted as several ninjas are racing after the speeding carriage. She and Tuka open fire on the ninjas, picking them off as they race after them. With the sound and fire attacks being thrown at them, the ninjas couldn't throw shurikens at the carriage as the sound waves made them unable to aim straight. With the burning fury of youth, "I will stop you," a man in green and big eyebrows shouted as he leaped onto the side of the moving carriage. He tried opening the door of the carriage before he could. It was flung open as a huge muscular woman popped out. "Sorry, no hitchhikers," she shouted as she slams her fist into his face, sending him flying backwards, causing two of the ninja's runners to trip on his rolling body as the rest continue to follow chase after them. "These guys are starting to bother me," Maya said as she leans down and punched the ground, causing the ground behind the carriage to shoot upward, causing the ninjas to lose their balances that handles them. "Here comes another wave of them," Tuka said as she sees some more leaf ninjas on the roofs of the houses around them. "I'll handle this one," Jiraiya said as she jumps into the air, spreading out her cape wings, using the speed of the carriage to give her the updraft needed to take flight. The leaf ninjas were taken by surprise as one of the women on the speeding carriage began flying like a bird. She rose up into the air far above the range of any of their attacks, giving her a bird's eye view. Jiraiya began using lightning jutsu, sending down bolts of lightning raining down on the ninjas racing after the carriage. They couldn't do anything as she's too high up to attack, and those who did clones jutsus found that she could tell which one was the real one as she aims her lightning bolts on the ones who tried. The leaf ninjas couldn't believe the amount of power these women have as they easily kept them from overtaking the carriage. They seemed to not be running out of churka anytime soon as they kept throwing one powerful jutsu after another. One of the ninjas running after the carriage, a big fat guy, suddenly grew bigger than most of the buildings of the village, swinging a huge staff. But before he could stop the carriage, Rushina created a giant dragon made out of fire as big as the giant leaf ninja. The living dragon made of living fire slams into the giant-sized ninja, causing him to burst into flames as his clothes caught on fire. He fell backwards as he returned back to his original size. Ninjas were already rushing over to him to put out the fire that's burning his flesh. "We're in the clear now," Tuka shouted as they came up on the huge gate of the walled ninja village. "Look out!" Mikan shouted as she saw several ninjas jump onto the speeding carriage from the roof of one of the buildings. Three of them grab onto her and knocking the horse reins away from her. Using her cloth, she grabs the ninjas with her cloth, throwing them off of her. Tuka and Rushina handled the two on top of the carriage, while Maya punched the two trying to get into the carriage off with punches to the jaws. "That was easy," Rushina said before she felt the carriage under her start to jerk a bit. "Hey, watch your driving." "That's what I'm trying to do," Mikan shouted back to her as she tries to grab the reins which had been knocked away from her grasp. She couldn't grab the reins as they fell out of her reach, leaving the carriage was now out of her control. Jiraiya, who was watching all of this from way up in the night sky, shot upwards, disappearing in the clouds. In front of the main gate. "Here they come," a silver-hair ninja said, wearing a mask and has his headband covering his left eye. He's talking to a woman with black hair and red eyes. "I hope that Anko set the trap right," the red-eye woman said. "You know her and making a blast." "She knows what she's doing," the man said as he watches the carriage approaching them very fast. "We still need to get Naruto out of there." "Yes, in the state he is now it will be easy for those women, whoever they are, to turn him against us," the woman said. The third had told them about what he had seen in the forest earlier with Mizuki and Irika. He has put every ninja in the village to work in finding the women who have somehow hidden themselves from the seeing orb. With Naruto and the forbidden scroll written by the fourth, those women couldn't be allowed to leave the village alive. "We can't let Naruto be taken from this village, not after what his father did to save it," the silver-haired man said. "Don't worry, they won't," the red-eyed woman said as she gave the sign for Anko to set off the bomb planted on the road, who's standing on top of a building. "Let's show them they can't beat us leaf ninjas in our home field," Anko ginned as she flipped the SWCH on the bomb as the carriage passed over it. The blast from the bomb threw the carriage up before falling back down, breaking one of its wheels and freeing the team of horse pulling it. The carriage fell onto its side and slid along the ground as the momentum of the speed it was going it kept it going. The horses run down a side street as the carriage slid to the right of them. The two ninjas who were standing in the middle of the street jump onto the sliding carriage as the ninjas who were riding on it were either thrown off when the wheel broke or are holding on for dear life. The silver hair and red eye ninjas took advantage of this as they flung open the door of the carriage, but looking inside the compartment they found only the redhead woman in the carriage and a large red wooden barrel with a burning fuse on it. High above the village. Allison Turner leant back in the padded pilot chair of the blimp airship, the Scarlet Rapier, rubbing her tired eyes and then running her fingers through her shoulder-length red hair. The appealing pilot and first mate of the Rapier was working the graveyard shift at the helm, so she was completely alone on the silent bridge of the ship. Allison crossed her long legs and leant back even further in the chair, completely at ease. She was dressed in a pair of black leather pants that were slung quite low on her shapely peach, the sides of her pink G-string visible, and a skimpy white halter top that had a plunging neckline showing plenty of the upper slopes of her big, plump assets. Red, as Allison was known to her friends, took a quick glance at the navigation panel of the ship off to her left, ensuring that the Scarlet Rapier was still on course and that the autopilot had not drifted them off. The Scarlet is a transport airship for the most important of cargo in the country of metal. They have been circling around the village of the Leaf using the mist jutsus, giving them cover to hide their movements from the ninjas down below. She'd got the nickname for the obvious reason of her flaming scarlet hair. In fact, her name had originally been Big Red, in honor of her ample D-cup assets, but over the last few years it had been shortened to just Red. The lovely red-haired pilot gave a loud yawn, lifting one hand to cover her gaping mouth. The village below suddenly lit up in flames as Rushina started using her fire jutsu, setting some of the buildings of the village on fire. Then a giant appeared only to be knocked down by a dragon made out of flames. Red wondered what was happening down there as lightning bolts flash every now and then. Finally there was a huge explosion near the front gate of the village that lit the sky up as a fireball rose into the air. What in the world is happening down there? Red said to herself as the door of the control room opens, letting in the gold Delmo, Jiraiya inside, followed by the captain. Kim, possible captain of the Scarlet Rapier, was a big girl, about 5'9", she was dressed in a form-fitting white bodysuit that clung to every curve of her body. The white suit had a zipper running up the front that was currently pulled about halfway up, leaving the suit jutting wide open at her melons, her impressive E-cup melons thrusting out of the open material, pushed up by a lacy white brassiere. Her ample endowments are so large she made the fabric stretch its confines. She has a slim waist, and a great peach in legs. She is of a mixed race, with a lot more races mixed in her thanks to the fact that her family wanders around lot before finding a husband and returning back to the village. Her hair is long, wavy, sun-streaked brown. She had a pretty face, with a nice mouth, high cheekbones, big, dark eyes, and a somewhat aquiline nose, evidence of her mixed heritage. "Get the ship over to the top of the cliff with the faces on it on the double," Kim barked out, "we have a prince to pick up." "Right away, Ma," Red said as she shouted in the speaker tubes running throughout the ship for all crew to prepare for a pickup. Another woman burst into the room as the ship began to drive down towards the mountain with the faces craved onto it. She was a tall and very elegant-looking brunette with long silky hair that reached all the way to her waist. She wore a pair of skin-tight pink trousers that clung to every curve of her long legs and impressive backside, and a tight white woolen jumper that zipped up the front where it stretched taut across her full melons but came right the way up to a high turtleneck. Conservative and yet ceasy, it suited Elizabeth perfectly. The top of her jumper was pulled taut across an impressively perky pair of full C-cups, not as buxom as Red but still a nice rack. Elizabeth Holmes is the navigations officer of the Scarlet Rapier and also the backup pilot. "How are we going to pick them up?" Elizabeth asked as she took her seat in the control room. "The top of the mountain is flat, all we need to do is fly low enough for them to jump on board," Jiraiya answers, making all of the women in the room blink. "That's crazy!" Red shouted as bringing a ship that low while at full speed was just crazy. "This old bird can do it," Kim said, as this ship has pulled off some daredevil stunts over the years and this would be a walk in the park. "We can't land and let any of the Leaf ninjas get on aboard the ship." Kelly Clayton reported in by the speaker tubes. She is a very pretty blonde with cute dimples in both cheeks and blonde hair, cut short to avoid getting caught up in machinery as she worked. The blonde mechanic was dressed in a pair of form-fitting pale blue overalls. The zipper front was only zipped halfway and a pair of huge tips swelling up from the open front, revealing a deep melons and the round tops of her mind-boggling F-cup jugs. "What's going on up there?" the voluptuous mechanic asked. "We need to get the prince out of there as well as my teammates before the leaf ninjas find them," Jiraiya answers her question. "What? Are you lost your mind?" Kelly shouted as she began shouting into the speaker tube connecting to the engines of the ship, "All right people, let's get this ship at full speed. I want all the boilers at full power, we can't let the prince be captured by the leaf ninjas." "Roger M.A., the mechanic crew of the ship shouted to their chief. The ship's steam-powered engine roared with power as the ship descended to the earth below. Back on the ground. "Tell me what happened here," the third Hokage asked as he scanned the scene before him. The area around the front gate was in ruins as the blast of the bomb had much of the surrounding area. Leaf ninjas were crawling around the site putting out the fires the bomb have started and helping the wounded out of the area. They were using shadow clones, Kakashi said as he and Kurenai walked over to him. They still couldn't believe that they had lived through a blast that powerful. The hole it created is several feet deep and wide, damaging the building close to the blast zone. Luckily the buildings around here are stores that are empty. I couldn't see that they weren't real. They were using too much churka to be normal shadow clones. They must be still in the village somewhere, Kurenai said as she would need a couple of days to recover from her wounds. They couldn't have gotten out without. She was lost of words as she saw something big coming through the clouds. The third looked up to see something he had only seen in the major transport ports and cities. An airship is flying downward towards the Hokage mountain shrine. At once he realized what had just happened. We've been tricked. Let's just shot it down, Enko said, appearing onto the scene as she prepared for a fireball jutsu. "No, that ship is full of hydrogen gas, and if you throw a fireball at it, the ship would burst into flames and crash right on top of the village," the third shouted to her as he started running for the cliff. "We got to reach them before they get away with Naruto." "What are you guys waiting? Go after him," Kakashi shouted to the ninjas around him. He and Kurenai are too wounded to follow. The ninjas were shook off their hesitation and ran after the Hokage. "We can't let the 4th's child be taken," Kakashi, as he wouldn't let his late teacher's child be taken without a fight. On top of the mountain. "Here comes our ride, girls," Setsuna said to her teammates. She is holding Naruto close to her melons as he clutched the scroll he had stolen earlier. He hasn't spoken a word after what he found out about the secret that was kept from him his entire life. But she couldn't blame him as to just suddenly find out the reason why he was hated in the village and that his teacher, who he thought had liked him, hated him. "Hold it right there." The gold Delmos turned to find the third Hokage and a large group of ninjas behind him had reached them. Setsuna placed Naruto on the ground gently and readied herself for battle. They came too far to let the leaf win. "Naruto, get away from them," Sarutobi shouted to Erasure, but instead of coming towards him, Naruto stepped back, hiding behind the women who had taken him. As he stared into his late friend's son's eyes, he could see that he was more scared of him and his fellow ninjas than the women who are kidnapping him. "As you can see, he wants to come with us," Setsuna said as she and the others formed a barrier between the leaf ninjas and their prince. "We're not about to give you him just to be killed by a village that hates him." "That isn't true," Sarutobi shouted. "Then why does the village hates the son of the fourth Hokage who saved this village from the demon fox by sealing it into his only son?" Setsuna asked, buying time as the airship drew near. "He's my father," Naruto asked, his eyes wide as something else that's been kept from him all of his life was discovered. He wonders what else this village has been hiding from him. "Yes, and the scroll you're holding was written by him. It's your birthright to have it," Setsuna said to him. "Who are you?" Sarutobi shouted at the 5 women who are breaking Naruto apart from the inside. He doesn't know what he'll be able to do even if they manage to get Naruto back, as he will never trust him or anyone else in the village ever again. "You find out soon," Rashuna said as she snaps her fingers, creating a firewall between them and the leaf ninjas. Sarutobi and the others were forced back by the intense heat of the flames. They couldn't pass as the flames of the fire rose, high in the sky, burning with intense rage. As quickly as it came, it was gone. the 5 strange women and Naruto were gone as the airship flew high in the air after it had flown low enough for Setsuna and the others to jump on board. Naruto! Sarutobi shouted as he could make out his student son on the ship's deck being carried inside by those women. He knows they wouldn't be able to follow as the Leaf doesn't have any airships and following on the ground was out of the question. Erasure, I'm sorry I fail you. Inside the Scarlet Rapier. How is he? Setsuna asked the ship's doctor as she waited outside the medic room of the ship. She and the rest of her team have been waiting around for the doctor to finish examining him. I gave him a sedative and he's resting right now, Carmen Taylor replied, taking a seat. The attractive medical officer of the Scarlet Rapier was dressed in a pair of tight gray trousers that clung to her slim figure and a red top that was quite tight and low-cut and pushed up a swelling melons between her firm, ample breast. Once he wakes up have him place in my room, Kim said as her room is the best in the ship. I'll watch over him, Setsuna said as she feels she needs to be there for him as she's the one who broke the news about his father to him. Maya, Rushuna watched the door. Kim have the crew look around the ship in groups. There's still a chance that one of the Leaf ninjas might have gotten on board. I'll have it done, Kim said as she headed for the control room to give out the orders. Everyone on board knew that if they lose their queen's grandson now, then they won't ever be able to come back home without him. I'll fly down and tell the other teams to head back now, Jiraiya said as she heads for the deck outside. Good, Setsuna said as she went inside the medic room with Maya and Rushuna guarding the door. Inside she sees Naruto resting in one of the beds. His clothes have been removed and sent down to the washers as they needed a good cleaning. Looking down at his sleeping form she couldn't help but to shed tears for him. Of what kind of life he has forced to live by a village who saw his father as a hero and him as a monster. How could he be still, have the will to live on after everything done to him? By now he should have been killing villagers left to right for how they had treated him. But instead wore that smiling mask he had shown when they had met in front of the school he went to. Kiko would have been proud of what kind of person you have become, Setsuna said softly as she strokes his forehead. She jerks back as he suddenly grabs a hold of her hand, holding it firmly. He looks into her eyes, his eyes empty of everything but sorrow. She was lost in his eyes as they were so deep and sad. You knew my mother, he finally spoke. She gave him a nod as he lets go of her hand. Can you tell me about her? Setsuna gave him a sad smile as she pulls up a chair next to his bed and began telling him everything about his mother that she knew of her and the family Naruto didn't even knew he had. And the legacy she left behind for him to fill as the sole heir to the Queendom of Metal, who is also the leader of the Kangakure, known better as the Delmos. Neko Turley straightened her slim shoulders back, adjusted her green ponytail over her shoulder and then adjusted her pink skirt and tunic one more time before leaving her new quarters to assemble with the rest of the new weapon assemblers. The young girl merged with the long line of young females quietly rushing to the gathering chamber ahead. Neko brushed a stray lock of green hair out of her lovely face, and then moved into place in the third row of the assembly. The group of girls stood silently at attention, their pink clothing spotless and orderly. A tall woman entered the chamber, and then walked proudly to the podium placed on a raised dais in front of the assembled girls. The woman was dressed in a neat pink business jacket, white blouse, and knee-length skirt. Silky black hose covered her long legs, while her feet were encased in polished black stiletto heels. The older woman slid her right hand over her slick-back raven hair that ended in a tightly coiled ponytail. Good morning, ladies. My name is Eva and I will be your supervisor as you begin your first day on the assembly line. Our manager, Mr. Claw, has placed a great deal of faith in every one of you. I expect you to live up to Mr. Claw's expectations and perform your duties efficiently and quickly. The mid-quarter is almost upon us, we have to meet our production deadlines. Now go to your individual team leaders and make the best tools for our fellow Kangakure that you can, said the older woman crisply. The gathered girls broke from their orderly lines to proceed to their work assignments. Neko left the chamber, traveled down several long hallways, and then descended one level to the electronics assembly area. The petite girl approached her team leader, a stern old woman named Sharon. Who are you? Snapped Sharon when she saw Neko approaching. My name is Neko. I'm a grade 6 assembler, replied the green-maned girl quickly. At age 14 Neko had just finished with her classes to become a pink Delmo, in the field of making and repairing the equipments that the upper-ranked Delmos uses in the field. She wasn't that good in healing people while she was taking the medical classes. Grade 6. A beginner, huh? Go over to section 13 to screw on case lids, ordered Sharon with an abrupt raising of her right arm. Neko nodded her acceptance, and then hastily went to the indicated post. She picked up a motorized screwdriver from the small work table in front of her, and then fastened screws into the case holes of the camera casing that rolled in front of her and stopped. Neko barely got all the screws in place before the camera rolled away to her left to be replaced by another unsealed unit. The appealing young girl screwed the second case into place, slowly learning a style that allowed her to move smoothly from one unit to the next. Dozens, then hundreds of cameras passed beneath Neko, the repetitive procedure making her mind fuzzy and unfocused as she screwed the same holes again and again with her motorized screwdriver. Neko, a voice behind her spoke suddenly making her jump from the surprise. The woman standing before her has a fair complexion like and knee-length dark brown hair that she tied in a fishtail style with a red tie. The young pink Delmo knew who she was very well, having been her tutor during their time the ninja school. At age 20, Tifa Lockhart was very appealing. She was 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighed 115 pounds, and had unbelievable measurements. Her 38 size big melons with a slender well-developed build that accented her bust. Her waist was 22 size big and her cute peach was 36. She wore a gray color suit that did well to hide her lust figure underneath the confines of the leather vest she wore underneath her jacket and her long legs with the loose slacks she wore. She is skilled in martial arts and uses her fists and legs as her weapons. Tifa, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be making out with Cloud? Neko asked. Last that I heard both of you had joined with the Turks. The name Turks is the unofficial nickname of the investigation division of the General Affairs Department of the Delmo Army. They perform covert operations on behalf of the royal family, including espionage, kidnappings and assassinations. They also scout for potential candidates for Delmo's elite gold and silver units. They also serve as bodyguards for the Queen. Becoming a member of the Turks is something the very few people have the ability to become, as they are hand-picked by the leader of the Turks who's been the husband of the current queen. Their numbers are always 13, with the members of the Turks always being couples, so that there's never any lone member who could betray them, as the wives would always be watchful of their husbands. The kunoichis who gain membership must first be married, as the royal family wants the members to have strong bonds and for the husbands to feel the need to defend their new homes. And the fact that all husbands within the top-ranking army and government who have active roles all have special jutsu seals placed on them, so that their wives can feel what they're feeling and know where they are at all times. Also meaning that the husbands can't hide anything from their wives, meaning that the husband can't go and cheat on her without her finding out. The chief asked me and the others to gather some of the young new Delmos from each rank for an important assignment. Tifa answers her old trainee. I couldn't think of anyone else. Also Aerith had him for the afternoon, which means he should have made it to headquarters by now if she went easy on him, that is. And yes, both, me and Cloud are now members of Turks. Good for you too, Neko said to her friend, but my shift isn't over yet. Don't worry, Tifa said as she took the drill from her hands, after this you won't be working here anymore. I got you a new position where someone as friendly as you are will be of great help. Before Neko could say anything else, she was picked up by Tifa, who ran out of the building with Neko screaming for her to slow down. In the office of the Turks in the castle, an old man with short gray hair wearing a gray suit sat behind a large desk with papers stacked on top of it. He is Hunrock Delmo, the husband of Carline Delmo, the queen of the land of metal, father of Kiko and the grandfather of Naruto. In his 60s, the same as his wife. He's in good condition as he kept his body in good shape over the years, the same with his wife. Before him are the members of the Turks, which he's been in charge of ever since he first came to this land after meeting Carline when she was being escorted through the land of stone where he had lived. He was a laid-back guy even back then when he was still young, which caused Carline to lose her temper when they had gotten into an argument over a card game, which he had won, and using smart comebacks on her didn't help matters either. She and her SCRT left the following morning after she had ordered her guards to teach him a lesson, which ended with most of the inn destroyed in the following fight. And he had somehow managed to grab Carline's family crest that she kept around her neck. In short, he traveled to the land of metal where he had given back her family crest, and somehow during his time in the castle he had gotten himself married to her, after he found out he had broken into the castle to give back the princess crest which he had only thought was a staff member of the castle up till then. "Alright people, once Tifa gets back we can start," Hunrock said to the current members of the Turks, all dressed in uniformed grey color suits who have all but one had gotten here with their missions completed. Sang Rockis is the stern but polite and calm, second in command of the Turks. He has long, black hair and what appears to be a tilak in the middle of his forehead. Though he is still young, he has been an active member of the Turks for more than 5 years now. His combat skills are in using razor-sharp steel wires, able to cut into flesh and bones like a hot knife through butter. Before he got married he was in charge of managing the castle guards. He had came here looking for a position in the army when his combat skills caught the eye of the queen's husband, who placed him into managing the defensives of the castle. When he finally got married he was soon placed into the Turks. His wife is Elena Rockis, is in her late 20s with short, blonde hair and brown eyes. Before she joined the group, she was a high school student whose father was a teacher in the military academy and whose older sister and husband were members of the Turks, before stepping down from their positions when she and her husband wanted to start a family. Though she resented and wanted no contact with her sister and the other Turks for outperforming her in their status, an encounter with them convinced her to join the group. Elena is naive, impetuous and somewhat overeager, with a loose tongue that sometimes causes her to inadvertently reveal secret information. She takes her job much more seriously than the rest of the team do, and also becomes quite frustrated with their casual, lay-back attitudes. As in her words, "How in the world you people, a bunch of slackers and misfits, ever became Turks, I'll never know." But with Hunrock in command of the Turks he likes how the members act, as they would be too hardcore otherwise. Cloud Lockhart, who had taken his wife's clan name, his appearance is marked by spiky blonde hair, vivid blue eyes. He doesn't look it, but he's really strong as he wields a buster blade in battle. Judging from its relative size compared to the 5 feet 7 inches Cloud, it must be over a foot in width and at least 5 feet in length. And he swings it around like it's a normal size sword. He is also married to 2 wives, as sometimes 2 of the Delmo women would fall for the same guy, and instead of fighting over him they just share him. That way the wives, whenever their husband try to do something they don't like, they can gang up on him, making the punishment ever worse since there's more than one angry wife breathing down the guy's neck. And from the way he's breathing and the sweat still covering his forehead, he must have just came back from one of his workout sessions with his other wife Aerith, who's part of the Pink Delmos, since she always did like wearing pink. Cypher Almasy has short blonde hair, green eyes, and a scar across his forehead. He has, like Cloud, recently joined the Delmo clan. Although Cypher is a gifted warrior, he has a stubborn, arrogant, reckless and unpredictable nature. He uses a one-handed sword in battle. He uses fire-type jutsus and combines them with his sword, making the blade red hot as it cuts into the flesh of his opponents, the red-hot metal burning shut the BLD vessels before the BLD could start pouring out, making him ideal for covert operations, since when he kills with his sword he doesn't leave an BLD behind. His wife is Fujin Almasy, is a young woman with pale skin, short silver hair, and an eye patch. She is incredibly dedicated to her duty in protecting her homeland and to the Turks. Fujin speaks in single-word sentences, which she normally yells. These pronouncements typically summarize her emotional state or declare pejorative statements, for example, rage, and lies, are all she says. In battle Fujin wields a chakram, which she throws at her opponents, and using a return jutsu has it fly back to her after it hits something. Raijin Tilmit is a strong-looking member of the Turks. He and his wife usually team up with Cypher and Fujin. He is a very laid-back and rather slow-witted person. Whenever he and his wife Selfie appears together, Selfie is clearly the one in charge and the one who does all the talking. He always ends his sentences with, you know, and sometimes opts out of explaining difficult things. In battle Raijin uses a long staff with 2 large battering weights on either end. His wife, who he had taken her family name, Selfie Tilmid, is spunky, hyper, and somewhat childish. Selfie seems misplaced as part of an elite military academy, but she is actually a valuable asset to the party. She is highly talented with machinery. She wields oversized nunchaku in battle and lets her husband tear into the enemy first before she steps in. Despite her girlish demeanor, she also shows flashes of a subtle bloodthirsty streak and an unexpectedly black sense of humor. Reno Treep is a prominent member of the Turks with a lanky physique, unkempt red hair terminating in a long ponytail and 2 symmetrical red marks on his cheekbones, apparently tattoos, though popularly believed to be scars. He is always seen wearing goggles on his forehead, an unzipped suit jacket and an untucked dress shirt. He is cocky, cynical, and somewhat lazy, but is highly skilled and takes great pride in his work. His fighting skills are obviously far above the level of a normal ninja's, as he can hold his own against a group of gold Delmos. In battle, he wields a retractable metallic rod which can deal electric shocks. His wife is Quistis Treep, while serving as a Turk, is also an instructor at the Ninja Academy when she isn't on a mission. She wears glasses and is in her early 20s but acts more mature than her husband. She is widely admired by the students of the academy she works at while she isn't on missions, and even has a fan club known as the Trey Pies. She's one of the top jutsus users in the Land of Metal, making her having to stay back as her husband protects her while doing jutsus. She also uses a WHP both in battle and making her slacker husband move his lazy as into gear. The last 2 members are Rude Go, a tall, naturally bald, dark-skinned man with a slight goatee. He always wears sunglasses and carries spare pairs with him. Rude is rarely seen without his longtime partner, Reno, who they had worked together before meeting their wives, and is rather taciturn, tending to relegate the talking to Reno. Rude is a superb physical combatant and prefers to use his fists in battle. He's slow, but he has the strength to smash his way through walls with ease and can take more damage to his body than most others can. His wife is Pain Go, a sword woman. She has silver hair and red eyes thanks to her clan's bloodline, which allows her see in anything, even in pitch-black darkness. She doesn't speak much, only saying what she needs to get her point across. Her skill with the blade is so great that she can deflect anything that is thrown at her with one swing of her sword. Her sword is a long double edge that's colored black to make it harder to be seen at night, giving her the nickname Black Blade. And standing in front of his desk are 6 young girls, all near his grandson's age. They're what he had sent the Turks out to do when he and his wife received a message of the gold Delmos that were sent to bring their grandson to them, were coming back with him. He would have sent the Turks out with them, but all of them were on other missions and the ones that weren't on mission weren't allowed to go. His wife had told him that the gold Delmos she had sent would be able to complete the mission, as she had sent their late daughter's personal bodyguard Setsuna, who had taken their daughters running away as hard as they were close sisters. He knew with her she wouldn't come back without her friend's son with her. The girls in front of him are all from different Delmo ranks. He had looked over the files of each of them when the Turks had reported in their findings. The first is Erica Fontaine of the Green Delmos. A 13-year-old teenager who works as a priestess when she isn't doing work as a Delmo. When she was young, her parents died in a fire accident and she survives when she accidentally uses her bloodline power of making an energy shield around her. She went off to live in a temple to live as a priestess to learn how to control her bloodline better, as well as starting her schooling in the Ninja Academy. Years had passed by and she made a lot of mistakes in the temple due to her misunderstanding and clumsiness. Some of which is that she once cleansed the sanctuary and in the end, one of the statues was shined into pieces. When she was in charge and plucking out of the grass near the church, she plucks out the flower bed too, and when she was in charge of the cooking, the misfortunes became more miserable after tasting her cooking. Due to the reason, she was actually asked to leave the convent, but due to her misunderstanding and impression of the head priests. Saying, she stayed there for 6 more months, before she signed up to become a Kangakure Nin. She is quite skilled in using bows and crossbows, rarely missing a target. Glycin Bluemare of the Orange Delmos, a rich noble daughter from the Bluemare family. At age 16 she is already showing the signs of what kind of beauty she will be when she gets older. The Blue family have always been supporters of the Delmo royal family both in fighting and business affairs. She inherited her father's massive strength which she uses as she's the only one in her class who uses a halberd which she gotten from her father as a gift in battle. Lobelia Carlini, who before she joined the Purple Delmos was a thief. She's actually a former prisoner who was sentenced to 1,000 years and later stated her death statement due to her crimes like stealing jewels and arts and destroying public property. Because of 80% of the incidents was her doing, she earns the title for the greatest thief in the land of metal. All before she was 16, and the reason why she was offered to become a Purple Delmo because of her great speed. Her trademark weapons are the chains she keeps in her coat she always wears over her Delmo uniform. Kataji Hanabi of the Blue Delmos, a very quiet and shy 15-year-old girl. Because that her father, Kataji Mazamichi, made many dealings with the House of Blue Mare, Glycin was taking care of her while they were both in school together. They have been friends since then. She's also quite skilled in using a long bow and rarely misses her target. She and Glycin always work as a team, with Glycin attacking head-on and Kataji giving support fire. Gemini Sunrise of the Yellow Delmos, an outgoing 12-year-old girl. She grew up on the farm her family runs in the grasslands around the city. She learned how to ride a horse before she learned how to walk. She uses a lance in battle as she always goes out with her horse Butterscotch, making her a very powerful mounted fighter. She and her horse portals the streets of the city, making it easy for her to get through crowded streets sitting on her horse. They move as one, and even Gold Delmos found the skills they show impressive. Then there's Koklako Nakura, the youngest at the age of 10 and of the Black Delmos. She used to work and lives with an amusement park. She was always seen collecting leftovers in the town market and treating the amusement park animals as her friends. She takes care of the animals in the pens of the Delmo campus, while taking care of the jobs she's hired for, as the Black Delmos are basically the city's workforce. Since there are way more women in the city than men, all of the young girls in the city all go through school learning the basic skills of a ninja, like a gym class, gaining the ranks of Black Delmos when they finish school, so that all of the women of the city know how to fight, and those who want to can either become normal citizens or become full ninjas. "Hi guys, sorry, I'm late," Tifa shouted as she enters the room, making the Turks chuckle as her husband Cloud lowers his head, mumbling to himself, "Got the last member right here." She pulls Neko into the room by her arm, placing her in front of their king. "All of you must be wondering why you all have been brought here today," Hunrock asked them. "Yeah, tell us," Koklako shouted as she lifts herself on the desk as she could barely see past the top, making the older women in the room saying how cute she is. "As you must have all heard about, my grandson Naruto is going to be brought back to his homeland, right?" he asked them. All of the girls in front of him nodded, but for Koklako was still trying to get a good view of her king. "No, I didn't." "Well, he is," Hunrock said, looking at Koklako, who's resting her chin on his desk. "The reason you all have been brought here is that, all of you have been hand-picked by the Turks, who pick you out of all the young candidates. You all will become my grandson's servants when he arrives, as well as his bodyguards. The reason why older girls weren't picked is because me and my wife want you all to become his friends, which older girls would find it difficult to do since he's still 12 and needs to have kids around his own age." "That sounds fun," Koklako shouted out. The other girls all mutter to themselves as what this would mean to them and their families. As Naruto is the first male to be born in this village who carries the same bloodline as all of them do, making him the first prince of the land of metal, the first time since the ninja clan and royal family had joined together hundreds of years ago. "What will our jobs be?" Glycin asks as she wonders what her family will think when they find out about this. Her mother will think it's disgraceful for a member of the Blue Mare to serve someone, but knowing her grandmother, the head of the family, she'll go for it, as this is the first time that there's a chance that the Blue Mare family are able to marry into the royal family, as up till now there hasn't been any males born in either family. Which means with her as his servant she'll have a position where she can become engaged to the new prince, allowing the two powerful families to join together. "And how much does it pay?" Lobelia asked, wondering what kind of job would need someone of her talents for. You'll have the same wages as the gold Delmos, and all of you have talents that the Turk have seen in either defending Naruto from harm or how well you get along with others. Also to become his friends, as from the reports he has none in the Leaf Village, Hunrock explains. I will serve your grandson with all my heart, Neko said, as this would mean a lot to her family. And don't worry, I'm sure we will become friends. Gemini shouted out, wondering if the prince knows how to ride a horse. I'll do my best. Erika said as she slams her hands on the desk and knocking a paper weight off, making it fly through the air, hitting a cabinet, sending the books in it falling out right on top of Reno and Ruto, who were quickly buried underneath a pile of books. Everyone in the room looked at Erika, who simply replied with an oops. Does that also mean we have to sleep with him? Kataji asked nervously. She knows that some of the older girls talk freely about sleeping with guys in the surrounding villages and towns, since they don't have to worry about becoming pregnant until the seals on their stomachs are removed. No, nothing like that, Hunrock said, waving her off. You're all way too young for that kind of thing. Hey, now that's something, I wouldn't mind, Reno said as his wife was helping him out from under the pile of books. Pain had already pulled Ruto free from the pile of books. Oh really now? Quistis asked as she looks coldly at him. She tips the cabinet down, making it fall right on top of him, causing him to cry out in pain as it began crushing him. And making sure he wasn't going anywhere, she sat down on it, trapping her husband under it. I'm not good enough for you. Causing the most of the people in the room to laugh, as this is something that happens between them all the time. Some have gotten the idea that the only reason Quistis had married Reno was that she likes hitting him when he does something stupid. That always happens at least once a week. Selfie, take these girls over to the storage room and show them their new uniforms, Hunrock asked her. Alright, follow me girls, Selfie said to the young girls, leading them out of the room. Hunrock, what's the real reason you called us here for? Sang asked, as he knows that this isn't just about finding the right girls to help ease the changes that Naruto will face once he becomes the crown prince. Yes, you're right, this is more than just finding some playmates for my grandson, Hunrock said. I want all of you to head out to the Land of Fire and recover any documents the Leaf Village has on my daughter and her family. I want nothing left for them to trace back to us or have any information they can use against us. We will have it done, Sang said as all the members smacked their right hand on their chest, except for Reno, who's still pleading with his wife to let him go. By the way, I have been wondering, Raijin spoke up, if all the past commanders of the Turks have been the husbands of the queen, who will be in command when Naruto becomes king, Everyone in the room blinked as Raijin has asked a good question for once. Hunrock nodded as he and his wife had talked about this. The next leader of the Turks is whoever becomes his wife. I hope whoever she is, she doesn't act like the women I know, Reno chuckles, making all the women in the room to glare at him. Hold it. Quistis shouted as she saw the female members about to pounce on her husband. If anyone is going to smack him around, it's going to be me. She adjusted her glasses as she took out her WHP as her husband Reno sweated as she smiles wickedly down upon him. High above in the sky. There it is, the queendom where your mother was born at, Setsuna said as she's on the deck of the ship as they came within sight of the central city of metal, Iron Mount. The city is a walled city, but the city had soon outgrown the walls and had spread out beyond the confines of the wall that separated the old part of the city from the newer city. The city sat on 4 major trade routes of the western lands, making it very rich in trade and political power. There are many waterways and fountains in the city, making it easy to transport objects through the city and gave the city a clean drinking supply. The entire city is made from stonework, making fires rare in the city, and all the streets of the city are cobblestone roads, making it an appealing city to visit. That's nice, Naruto said softly as he sat in the chair place on the deck for him, doing nothing more than staring at the horizon. Naruto, Setsuna whispered as she doesn't like how Naruto is becoming, as all he does ever since she and her team had taken him from the Leaf Village is sat around doing nothing. She blames herself for what's happening to him, as she was the one who told him everything about his life that was hidden from him all at once, making his already unstable mind at the time more unstable. She only hopes that there's a way to help him break free from the deep depression he's in now. All of the ship's crew are always watching him as he might try to end his life, as he's that far now. We'll be landing shortly, all crew must be inside the ship as we land. Kim voice said over the loudspeakers. Come on, let's go inside and get you ready to meet your grandparents, Setsuna said as she helps him to his feet. Alright, Naruto said as he walks into the ship with Setsuna holding his hand. In his mind he wonders what he's going to be expected to do once he becomes the crown prince of this strange new land. Something about this place makes him feel like he's someplace that makes him feel safe and warm, a place to call home. And if this place is just like the leaf, well, there's only one choice left for him then. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Mad Hat 886 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.